I am so excited for today's guest. She is a much needed bright light in this world. She's doing amazing work empowering women. She's a creative, a proud mom of 3, a wife of 20 years, a coach, a successful podcast host, and happens to be a friend of mine. She shines so bright. She has created so much success. She has built a successful coaching business, a powerful and amazing podcast called The Strong and Capable, which currently the series is on Being Fearless. I am so excited to bring you Brigette Heller. Welcome. I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for being here, Brigette.
I'm so excited to be here. It's fun.
Thank you. Thank you. You're such a bright light, just so you know.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. And you've created a lot of success and you built a strong coaching business. And I'd love to hear how that started. I mean, your podcast and community is all about growth and leadership and communication and freedom and the, being unapologetically ourselves. And I wonder how the brand started, The Strong and Capable, if you care to share.
Yeah, of course I can share. How it started is the one story I never thought I would share that now I'm asked to share all the time, right? Like there's certain things in your life that are sacred, that are deep and intense to your heart that you want to keep to yourself. And at least in my life, I have found these are the things that I don't get to keep. They're meant for other people, more than me even. And so this is The Strong and Capable, how it started. So my sister, I am one of 7, oldest of 7. And my sister directly under me is disabled. She's cerebral palsy and was deaf and had epilepsy. So very severely disabled. And our whole life, can you imagine? My mom with 7 kids and one of them in a wheelchair. We were like the walking circus everywhere we went.
And you were the oldest. So that probably put a lot of pressure on you as being the old. I'm just imagining like you're the helper of mom and perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And my sister, Aubrey, and I, we're just 18 months apart. So helper, yes, you saw that so clearly and so quickly. That's amazing. And Aubrey and I were very close. Not only just in age, but in personality. Twins have this thing where they're so connected, even if they were 100 miles away, they know when something's off, when one's sick or hurt or sad or happy. They get this sense, right? They have this interconnection.
Yeah.
That's how Aubrey and I were. So Aubrey and I, very close. She had over 30 surgeries during her life on her back because she had scoliosis and epilepsy tightens your muscles and pumps to put in so that she'd have medicine literally pumping through her at all times. Aubrey was a warrior. She was so strong and she was hilarious. She couldn't walk or talk, but she would do things to get us in trouble. I mean, talk about siblings. Like she would go to wheel with her one arm that worked really good into the kitchen, open a drawer and empty all the drawers. And she couldn't clean it up. So my mom would have us clean it up, me and my sisters, and Aubrey would laugh the whole time. She thought she was hilarious for making us clean it up.
Good for her. Good for her for having her own amusement,
Oh my gosh. You take her to Disneyland and the roller coaster she was laughing on and she cried on the carousel. Too slow, too boring. No, thank you.
Oh my goodness.
So Aubrey is amazing. And we were very close. And I stayed with her in the hospital. And if it was surgeries, I would take care of her, even when I was tiny up to an adult. And, when I had my own kids, we would go and see her in her home once a week and color with Aubrey and paint nails and do anything we could just to get my kids to engage with her because she was very special to me. Well, 9 years ago on Christmas Day, actually, we're at family dinner. Aubrey wasn't able to come home that year, but we got a call from her center and they said, hey, Aubrey is really sick. She has pneumonia. And it's not looking good. Someone needs to come up here. So my mom jumped up from Christmas dinner and got on a plane and went up to see her. And within a couple of days, she's calling us and saying, hey guys, this is not good. You need to come up here. She's aspirated. There's liquid in her lungs and they're not able to do anything to turn this around. You need to get up here. This isn't good. So in the middle of the night, I went with my brother and we drove 12 hours up to where she was. And I spent the next 2 weeks next to her watching her body deteriorate from the inside out. Literally, it was similar to a horror movie. It was horrible. And I had traumatic dreams for a long time afterwards. But she was my sister.
How old was
she?
She
was 31. So she was my sister and she was the other half of my heart. And so I had to be there. I knew I had to be there with her and I couldn't leave her. And so after 2 weeks of this, her body shut down to the point where we knew she was going to pass away. And I was with her in those last moments. And as her body was shutting down, she had a sense of fear that came about her. This is my fearless Aubrey who loves the roller coasters and getting us in trouble, right? Like,
oh my goodness.
She had this sense of fear and I'm religious. And so it freaked me out. I'm like, wait, why are you scared? There's supposed to be goodness and light on the other side of this. What are you scared of? And it came into my heart and mind, the understanding that she was not scared of whatever was coming next. She was scared of leaving us and what that would do to me and my sisters and my family.
Oh.
And so wanting to comfort her, wanting to give her reassurance was the hardest thing I was asking of myself, but also the most necessary thing for her. And we do extraordinary things for people we love, right? Mm-hmm. And this was one of those moments for me. So I rubbed her arms and her face and I just told her, I said, Aubrey, we love you so much. We love you so much. And it's okay. We're going to be okay. It's okay for you to let go, because she was in so much pain. I said, Aubrey, you are strong and you are capable. You can let go. It's okay to let go. We love you so much. And we just kept saying that again and again. You are strong and you are capable. It's okay to let go. And she did, right? She passed away. Hardest moment of my life. Like I said, never thought I'd be on a podcast telling you this story.
Right.
Hardest moment of my life was to let go of Aubrey, and the ensuing depression afterwards was intense. It was swift. It had me questioning every belief I've ever had, every love I've ever felt, every pain I've been through. It had me questioning everything in my life. And I couldn't even get off the floor sometimes because the pain was so intense and I was crying and couldn't even physically get out of bed or off the floor. And one day, I have 3 beautiful children. I've been married 21 years. You know some of this, Linda, but I have a nice home. In the world of check boxes, I've checked a lot of them and have a lot of great things. And I'm very, very thankful for that. But depression doesn't care about the boxes. Depression doesn't care about the good things or the gratitude or the spiritual blessings or whatever you have. Depression doesn't care.
Right.
None of that matters. And so here I was, wildly depressed with 3 kids and a husband who were just trying to love me through it. And I'm sitting in a church, actually, listening to a sermon. And I remember thinking in my head, I don't care. Whatever he's saying up there, I don't care. I don't care. Like it,
you pretty much wanted to be miserable. I mean, no disrespect, but you were, because of the programming that we all have, it's like you were dwelling in it, and you were not willing to get out. You know what I mean? Am I wrong? Did you want to get out of it, or were you? What do you think?
No, I didn't, because my heart hurts so bad when you lose someone like that. That's so attached to you. It was like part of me was missing. And when you lose yourself,
right, part of you is missing. So yeah,
it doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't know how to exist with half of myself missing. And so,
you were mourning 2 losses, your sister and then half of you. Right.
Yeah. And in so many ways, right. Not only was she my best friend, but as you've already pointed out, I was the oldest. I took care of her. So there was a different
part of your identity was gone as well.
As a caretaker and as this empathetic lover, and so many of these things were just ripped away from me, and I didn't know who I was fully anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah, you identified yourself with being her big sister and the caretaker and the strong. Yeah.
Yeah. So here I am in church, right? And like I said, looking at the preacher being like, don't care. Looking at my children thinking, I love you, but you're better off without me. Looking at my husband and thinking, thanks. You'll do better next time. like next wife, next whatever,
Oh
literally
my
letting
goodness.
go of everything, right? Just releasing it and saying, you guys are better without me. And in the moment that I was fully committed to letting go 100%, like I'm good, I'm at peace with taking the next steps to release myself from this pain. I felt hands on my shoulders and I heard a voice in my ear say, Brigette, you are strong and capable. Get up and go to work. And I heard it 3 times, and I have no doubt it was the voice of my sister. I don't know what that means. I don't, whatever
Of
you believe,
course.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I knew it was my sister. And she said, Brigette, you are strong and capable. Get up and go to work. I'm sitting there bawling. And I'm looking around like nobody else had this big moment. And I have spent since then the last 9 years studying what the heck does it mean to be strong and capable, and what work am I supposed to do that I was literally called from beyond the grave to do. And that was the foundation of the strong and capable, is that we are all strong and capable, even in our darkest moments when we want to let go and we feel so lost and hopeless and like our identity doesn't even exist. We are strong and capable, and there is a work to do.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that deep, sensitive story. That was amazing. That's just, I almost broke out in tears over it. It just, very powerful story. And so what steps did you take? How did you get into the podcast and coaching industry? Like, how did it kind of transition from that moment?
So there's a couple things I've learned. To always be a seeker, always be open to like, what else, who else, how else, always be seeking truth. And if you're always seeking truth and always seeking a vehicle for it, whether you're the person sharing it or you're the person receiving it, then pathways open up, right? So to be strong and capable, to be what you dream of being, you have to be a seeker. You have to be open to the possibilities. So that was one of the things. I had to be humble enough to be a seeker versus a listen to me, I'm amazing. Right.
Right. So you were open to learning. You decided you
Uh-huh.
wanted to learn more, and you started reading or
So, and then also you will find when you have these moments that you were prepared for them before, right? Everyone has life-changing moments. And if you can take that lesson from the life-changing moments and start looking at your life, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, there were patterns way before this moment happened. So for example, Aubrey died 9 years ago, but 20 years ago, I was in the throes of a deep depression, postpartum depression, 19 years ago, after my firstborn came along into the world. And I remember holding her and standing over the edge thinking, what would happen if I dropped her? I mean, I was in deep depression. I didn't even have any emotions attached to if I dropped my child from a second-story floor. It was wild. And in the middle of that depression, I had this person approach me and say, hey, Brigette, I have classes in my basement and I think you should come. Sounds creepy. Totally. I was so desperate. I was like, sure, I'll go to the basement class.
That's amazing.
And it was on mindset. It was all on mindset and how you can harness the spirit and the divine energies around you, and how you can actually work with your brain, how your brain works, how you can rewrite your thoughts. It was on love and logic, which is a parenting technique, which I desperately needed at the time, And so that being willing to learn opened up other things. So I'd been reading mindset books for years before this Aubrey experience. I had been teaching classes and giving seminars for years. Any moment where someone was like, we don't really know how to work through this, I'm like, oh, mindset is everything. Let me teach you. It's not everything, but it's a huge piece of it. And so, I was teaching and preparing myself way before Aubrey said, get up and go to work. So it's taking the pieces of your past that you've already had and then marrying them with that curiosity. And that creates a future. That creates possibilities for the future. So that was a huge part of it.
Yeah. So the divine has showed up for you when you needed when you needed it. That's amazing. Yeah. In fact, you have your daughter just got married. You have a daughter who's married. You look so young, and yet you have the three children and a long marriage. And that's an amazing story. I love it. What I love about you is you're so authentic and vulnerable. You just shared a story about possibly dropping your daughter as a baby. And it is just so, you have so much courage and strength, and you truly are strong and capable. I just can't believe how I love your Instagram and your stories, and you're just sharing, like, if you had a bad day or you had a bad week or a bad hair day, you're just always so authentic. And I love that about you. It's so powerful. And people, I'm certain, just resonate with that and just connect with you on that, because there's a lot of people, that need that role model that's going to, just show up and be unapologetic and be yourself. Like, you're helping a million people. Like, you're helping so many people. I see it and I'm like, oh my God, she has so much courage. I can't believe it. Cause like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I barely show up with no makeup ever, like ever on social media. I just can't, but you'll do these amazing reels. And like, I'm in awe. Like, I love it. What gives you that? How did you get past the fear? And then we'll go and talk about your Fearless that's coming out, your Strong and Capable series. I want to know what started that.
So what helps you get over the fear? I've heard many experts, many conferences I've sat in say fear never goes away. That's true. And I did an interview this season, you would hear it on the podcast, where she says, you're not becoming fearless, you just fear less. And I realized after that interview, and I was like, yeah, that's so good. And then later I was like, actually, I totally disagree with that. And so, like, fear is a part of us, but the best part is fear doesn't have to be a part of us. I have learned to view fear as a sacred space for me, because fear is transformative. When I am scared and I still do it, like going live with no makeup, when I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to judge me and hate me. And then they'll lose followers. And then I'll just, what am I doing? I'm wasting all my time, but I do it anyway. What I have learned is your fears are the worst case scenarios that hardly ever happen. They just hardly ever happen, but our brain wants to keep us safe. It's wired to keep us safe. And so when we give into the fears, we'll be safe, but we will not love the life we live. We'll hate it. And so I try and do something scary every day, something that's like, feels wild. And what's funny is what felt wild to me 2 years ago doesn't feel wild to me anymore. Like you said, going live without makeup, that felt wild. I'm really anti-filter, and I can tell you, I had the craziest moment this week. I cut my hair and I did a little, reel on it. And my husband's friends reached out to me and said, what filter did Brigette use? And I was like, what? So Mike said, he said she didn't use a filter. And they said, no, she used a filter. She looks totally different in that reveal. She looks totally different. What filter did she use? And so he kind of came to me, he's like, hey, I told him you didn't use a filter, but did you use a filter? And he wouldn't have cared, because, right, like, it doesn't really matter. But I'm anti-filter because I'm about authenticity and like, be yourself and love who you are. And so it's like, I didn't use a filter. That's not my brand. That's not who I am, And I was kind of like, what the freak? I was a little offended.
Exactly. And when you say like, oh, people aren't going to like me, it's like quite the opposite. People are going to love you because you're not afraid, and because you're being a human. We are all humans. Like Kathy Heller, one of my mentors, would say, is like, we're humans. Social media is to be social, to connect. And you are connecting with people by being yourself and not perfect all the time, And I know it's just exactly. But I was just going to bring up how you are such a light and you do sparkle, and how I remember the first time we met in Chicago. I hope you remember what you were wearing, sparkle from head to toe, sequins. And I looked at you and I said, now there's a queen. Do you remember that? Do you remember me saying something about you being a queen? I was like, oh my God. I looked at you and went, whoa, that's a queen. And then I have to share something else that really came to me today when I was thinking about our interview. And I said, do you know you are partly why I've completely transformed my life and relocated? Because, yes, because I met you in Chicago. And when I found out that you and Michelle were going to Miami in December, I jumped on and said, I'm going to go to Miami because I was on the fence about going to Miami. The Gina DeVee event is what we're talking about for the people who are unaware. We met at a Gina DeVee event in Chicago in November, and then we met in December. And I was on the fence about the December event for financial reasons and other reasons. And you and Michelle were going, and that was a huge decision that helped me decide. And I'm like, okay, I have to be there. And that trip and that event changed my
Your
life.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did.
So this is a perfect example of not choosing fear, right? You chose to be fearless. You chose to go for it. And
I
because
did.
you chose that, it changed your life.
It did. And
Choosing to be fearless changes your life.
it sure does. And it was a Friday. I will not forget because I was invited into the Zoom with you and the other coaches on that Friday, and I booked it and I left on Monday. So it was a very quick thing. And that was the same month my son was graduating college, and there was a lot going on. I had my new dog, that I adopted in October, which was a year yesterday. And he was like separation anxiety, and I had to, get a sitter for him and all the things. And what advice do you have for people with like that kind of lack, fear, mindset around money? And do you have kind of any tips and tricks for people?
Well, there's a couple of different things when you're feeling lack in your life. And some of it is this fearlessness, like we're talking about. I have a sign behind me. If anyone's watching, they can see it, but it says, I choose to walk sacred. And that sign is my mantra for living fearless. And the reason it's my mantra is because when I started my podcast, podcasting was scary. I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't actually know what I would say episode after episode. And who would even want to be on my podcast? Who would even listen? Like all the self-talk came right up for me, like just right there, all in a beautiful row of the reasons I should not do this. And yet I had been challenged to do it. And when someone challenges me, I am a little feisty, so I will do it. And so I was like recording it and then deleting it, recording it and then deleting it, recording it and listening to it and hating it and deleting it. And I was like, man, I'm so scared. And, so I was praying because, again, I'm religious. That's what I do. And I'm like, man, I am so scared. Why have I know I'm supposed to do this. I feel like I'm supposed to do it, but this is terribly scary. And I think it's kind of stupid. I'm feisty. And the thought that came back to me is, Brigette, switch the two letters. I was like, what kind of switch the two letters? It's not direction. Switch the two letters from scared, SCARED, to sacred, SACRED. Because when you're scared and you step forward and do it anyway, you are walking on transformational ground, and transformational ground is sacred. So the reason I share that story is this was life-changing for me to understand that when it wasn't just like overcoming the fear and feeling that high of endorphins that you get after you do it. It wasn't just about that. It was about transforming who I was and who I would be by choosing to walk on this sacred ground. And that every time I entered this space, it really was holy and sacred. And I didn't leave it the same person, right? So viewing it that's a mindset shift, right? I flipped the script. And anytime you do that, you're empowered. So that's the first thing, right?
Right. So you're saying that to step into faith and just instead of having all this fear around money and lack, just kind of step into faith, know that you're always taken care of, know that, there's ways, if there's a will, there's a way, that you're a child of God and that you are going to be cared for, and just kind of get out of the fear and the lack and step into faith. Is that what you think? Because that's what I kind of think. And then
that's part of it. But I think it's even different than that because, like you can say, I believe I'm divine. I believe I'm meant for more. But if there's that seed of fear in there, sometimes it doesn't fully translate into your mind and heart. Sometimes your mind is still in that subconscious providing all the reasons why that's not actually true. Right.
Okay.
But if you have a foundational belief of why are you here on this earth? Like, why are you here? Are you here to become more? Are you here to impact others? What are you here for? Literally. And every person's answer might be slightly different, but we all have a belief of why we're here, what we're meant to do day to day. Right. And so a foundational belief for me, and I believe it should, in my opinion, everyone should believe it, but is that I am here to become more than I currently am. And I am here to impact others. Right. So it was taking me out of the equation altogether. If it's all about you still, you're going to feel fear. But if you take it out and like, oh, I have a purpose and this purpose is so much bigger than me, then
I love
fear
it.
starts to go away. Right. And
Like,
my purpose is to become more. And I can't become more with who I am today.
it's amazing because it's kind of like the opposite of depression is purpose. And like when I'm kind of feeling down and then I go and, donate my time and walk dogs and spend time with these dogs and I am lifted up and I just spent 2 hours where someone else might be like, oh, I don't have time for that. And oh, da, 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 da. It's like, you know what? I make the time. I went there and it just lights me up, and the love that goes, the connection, it's just serving like that. I've done, it's just been so powerful. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is kind of like when you get over yourself and just kind of go into a serving mindset. And why are we here? And what are we here for? Instead of like, oh my God, I have no money, or, worrying about money, and you just get into more of a serving mindset. It comes because it's universal law. Like you give, you receive.
Yeah. And again, we will do more for other people. Like I mentioned earlier with that Aubrey story, I was willing to do things for her that anyone else, I don't know that I would do, because I adored her and loved her. So when you get out of yourself and get into your love and purpose are very closely related. They adore each other. And so when you have purpose, you have love for the people that you're serving, whatever that is. I did wedding events forever. I adore every bride we had because I was serving them fully with all my heart.
Yeah.
Right.
And you
Even the
loved it.
stinky ones.
You were
Yes.
enjoying it.
So purpose brings love.
Yeah. And it sounds like your sister was and still is a gift to you and so many others because of all that you share and do for others. And I just know that you're an amazing coach and created an amazing, successful podcast. And you've had some really, really great people on there. Is there any specific, just to go into anybody that maybe you had on there recently that kind of shared something that you were super excited about?
Yeah. So, it's interesting about the podcast because I've had some pretty big names on there in our industry, and I love my big name people, but my favorite interviews are almost always like local heroes, people that are smaller, that are just doing good because they feel called to do it and want to make a difference. So this season, I have a lady on there, and her whole thing is cultivate goodness. And she does it locally. That is her organization, Cultivate Goodness. And so she feeds the homeless. She provides water to firefighters because I guess they're always short on water bottles. Like, she finds the cause and she goes for it whatever it is, whatever she can find, she's serving. She serves in the schools. She serves in, facilities for children with disabilities. Like she's everywhere. Mental health. Like if it comes up, she's like, okay, what can I do? Let's do it. And I really liked what she was doing. And I wanted to talk about on the podcast how you can serve locally. Like you don't have to be a worldwide phenomenon to make a massive impact. So how can you impact where you are? And I had her on, and right before we interviewed, I asked her story. I was like, well, how did you even get started in this? And she shares with me the story of a little kid named Ever, who she had adopted. She's a foster mom, and she fosters kids with high special needs. And so Ever was almost identical to my Aubrey, and he died when he was 6. And it was in the healing from that she created Cultivate Goodness, right? So some of our hardest moments is where the biggest magic comes from every time. And so right before we go to hit record, she says, Brigette, this episode is for Aubrey and Ever. We're dedicating it to them.
Oh my gosh.
It was so powerful to me personally to connect with someone who had a heart of purpose and serving and was doing it in honor of someone they adored. So yeah, things like that I love the podcast because I get to have real conversation and real connection and talk about humans, we are heroes. We get to be the hero of our own story. And that's incredible. Like we get to choose that. We get to choose to be a hero of our own story. How powerful and fun is that to dig in to the why and the how and celebrate it? So yeah, that's probably lately the unexpected, really special moment that I got to have on the podcast.
That's amazing. Where did you find her? I'm just curious.
So, I work with the youth in my church, or I did, and we were looking for service projects, and she has a website and an Instagram, and she posts service projects, and so we actually made these it was really simple. They were just crafts, paper crafts we cut out and put in little stickers and all sorts of things. So when a kid comes into foster care, a lot of times the parents who are fostering don't have the things they need to take care of the kid because they're getting calls in the middle of the night or different times. And so she has a warehouse where they can come in and get food and clothing and the things they need for these kids. And while they're doing that, she has a craft space for the kids to keep them busy. So we were creating like craft packets for the kids to do for when they came to get the things they needed. How cool is that?
That's amazing. What a good distraction from what's going on in their lives and just something to take them away from, the reality that they might be experiencing that's not exactly the best. I know I explored being a guardian ad litem and I went through the whole process of interviewing and everything to do it. And then when I was hearing the stories of what I could be experiencing with these kids and, a little 5-year-old that wants to go back to mom and they can't because mom's an alcoholic or whatever the situation is. And she's, dangerous to him or something. And he's just sad and wants to go back to mom. That breaks my heart. And there's just so much that I just didn't think I had the space or capacity to handle it. And I didn't actually do it. So I walk dogs and help dogs, but there's actually a store, 2 locations here that has exactly what you're describing with your, the woman Cultivate Goodness, and it's called Twig, and they actually do a lot where they can come and shop there and the foster kids and parents. I love that.
They need it. They're yanked out of their homes with nothing, right?
Exactly.
A lot of times.
Right. In the middle of the night or, different situations like that. And is there anything that you would like to share with the audience about the Strong and Capable, your website, or talk about the Fearless? Can we hear about your Fearless series and what kind of prompted you in that direction?
Yeah. So it's fun because I know what it's like to feel weak. I know what it's like to not love yourself. It's something I still to this day, even with all the work I've done, I wake up every day and battle this loving yourself thing. Right? It is a daily struggle for me. But I know that the opposite, kind of like you said, faith versus fear, or whatever, that not loving yourself and loving yourself. I know the opposite. Like I know what it feels like to love myself in moments. And I know the power it has to change not just my life, but the people around me. When we love ourselves, when we truly care for ourselves in healthy ways, we change everyone around us. When we give ourselves permission to fully be ourselves and to shine our brightest, everyone around us is impacted for good. And so the Strong and Capable, I started to see as I was searching, what does it mean to be strong and capable? That there were these words. Strength was connected with shove through, push through, be the toughest, be the harshest, be the biggest BA in the room, right? That was what strong was. And I started to realize that moment I had with Aubrey, no, that was strength. To sit there with her and to love her and to be present with her and not run away crying that was strength. And when I was depressed, and I stayed in bed, that was strength because I had to let my body and mind heal. If I had just ignored it and pushed forward, I would have done a lot more damage to myself. I know because I've done that too.
Right.
So like there are different versions of strength. So the Strong and Capable website and everything we do and the podcast, it starts first with knowing who you are. That was season 1 of the podcast, actually, is I know who I am. I say yes to life. And then season 2 was being open to transformation. Like we're talking about walking sacred, being open to that process. It's not comfortable. It's not usually pretty. It's gooey and yucky and doesn't feel awesome. So being open to that. And then after you transform, I just kept picturing a butterfly, like this caterpillar that like knows who it can be, but is just learning, right? That's the I know who I am, saying yes to life. And then the transformation is that when they're in the middle and every part of them is changing. And like I said, it's gooey and gross, but when they're transformed and that moment that a butterfly breaks free and flies off, that's fearless, right? That's the moment where you know transformation has taken root and you're becoming and you're ready to go on the journey. So that is fearless. And I kept picturing that beautiful butterfly just stretching the wings and going. So yeah, fearless feels like the result of knowing who you are, where you're going, and then deciding to go there.
I see. So this whole season is fearless. Is that your theme? Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. So each season has a theme, and next season, right, starts in January and it's starting to come. That's what's cool about if you're a seeker and you're open, is the little evidences, the little things that signs will show up. And I'm not totally sure what the word is, but it's going to have to do with basically the actualization of who you are. And I have a group called the Queen Circle. It's my group of women who gather and want to support each other and strengthen each other. And I keep thinking it's similar to that. Like a queen knows who she is, she's fully into it, and she's owning it. So that's going to be the theme of the next season. I just don't know the word yet. It will come.
Yes, it will, because you are so creative. I really admire your creativity and your Instagram and all that.
Thank you.
But yes, and the queen, embodying the queen is definitely a message we need to get across to everyone, and that, we are all queens and worthy of good and abundance and love and light, and that vulnerability you just shared about loving yourself. Like, how many women deal with that? I've come so far myself, like my self-talk is so much better. And one podcast I was recently listening to that was phenomenal, she was saying we have to learn to love the things we don't like about ourselves, love the things that we dislike about ourselves. And wow, I mean, just getting there. And it was like talking about ego, in that we created ego and our egos, and it's like a child of God. You don't disown a child, if you're healthy and happy, you don't disown a child. So if we've created ego, that's like ego's our child. We're not going to disown them. We always talk about dissolving ego and everything's ego. And it's like, one of the books that I love is The 4 Agreements. And I do want to ask you what some of your favorite books are and who your favorite, inspirational, motivational speakers are. But the 4 Agreements, one of the agreements is to never take anything personal, because it's not about you. And if you can walk around in life every single day, if you could just try one day of not taking anything personal, I think you would just, it changed your life, because we always think it's about us, and it's often has nothing to do with you. I used to get these looks, say I was in a Starbucks and I'm waiting in line, and these girls in front of me turn and look at me and give me a dirty look. Well, old me, who was super sensitive, would be hurt, or like, who I'm letting these like total strangers that know nothing about me look at me and give me a dirty look, and that's going to affect how I feel about myself. And I said, I made up a new thing. This is years ago, Brigette, years ago. I made up this thing that anytime that happened, they were jealous of me. It was a compliment. I did this. I said, this is a compliment. When some woman is, nasty or something, I just shifted it. And recently I did something else with the mindset. I had this ring that a boyfriend gave me, and I was like, do I give it away? Do I donate it? Do I sell it? What do I do with this ring? Because I associated with the ring with these kinds of negative thoughts. And then I said, you know what? What if I change how I think about this ring? And I make this ring about someone loved me enough to buy me this expensive ring. And guess what? I wear that ring. And because I did take it to a jeweler back in Michigan, and I remember him looking at me and saying, you should just keep this ring and wear it, because what I would give you for the ring would be, it wouldn't be worth it. And I just kind of, hold on to it. But anyway, that's something that I did. I shifted my thinking around it. And I'm going to give one other thing I wanted to ask you. What's the other question? It was about the holidays coming up and like how people have a lot of stress and fear around that. I want to hear your opinions on little tips on what to do about it. But a friend, she's going to a wedding, and she's meeting her boyfriend's family, and she just had so much dread around it and fear around it. And, oh, they're going to ask me questions and all this stuff. And she's, grown woman my age, and everything. And I'm like, I said, think of it as joy. Like, you're going to have fun there. Go with expectations. You're just going to have fun. Like, who cares? People ask you questions. Like, how about shifting your mindset to, they want to know you more. They want to know about you. It's a compliment. So I'm just talking about shifting mindset. So I was just going to ask your opinion on one, people with the holidays coming up and like fear and stress and things like that. I wanted to hear what you would have, kind of a couple best ways to handle things like that when people are, just for the audience, if there's people that have a lot of stress, like thinking about the holidays coming up as like stress, and how we can handle that.
So the holidays are stressful, but like, I think acknowledging that is a huge piece of it. Just knowing that, yeah, this is a stressful time. There are a lot of expectations. There are a lot of events. There are a lot of things that I have to provide, whether it's a gift or a baked good or my happy, cheerful presence. Or if you're like me, I do a lot of musical stuff. So I'm playing for 1 million people or singing at something, or, like there's a lot of expectations. I think there's a couple things that help with the holidays. One is the follow joy, right? Does this bring me joy? Because you don't have to do everything. And the less you do, usually the happier you are. I like to ask, what purpose is this serving? So like, beyond even does it bring me joy, what purpose is this? If this is a friend gathering and I want to connect more with my friends, great. If I am really just tired and I don't actually care if I connect with my friends because we've connected all year long, do I have to go? What purpose is this serving for me personally or for my family personally? And if it's not serving a purpose that helps us grow and become, again, right, I'm all about that, or connect, then why are you doing it? Do you have to do it? A lot of things could be cut out by that. One of the things we started doing was my son's concerts are very long. They're very, very long music concerts at the high school. And so we go and we cheer him on and we listen and then we leave. We don't stay for the 3 hours. And it's not because we don't love and support the other students. It's because we're exhausted. We have a lot going on in our life. Now, that's right now. At a different stage, maybe we could have stayed. Maybe we will in the future. But right now, this is something we've started doing. And he understands it's because we just don't have the capacity to be there for 3 hours, but we want to support him. So really think about your boundaries and how can you do them with love, and then communicate with love. My thing I tell the kids and everyone else is tell the truth with kindness. Conversations don't have to be hard if you're being kind about it. Exactly. I love you so much. I would love to be there. I just can't. We are overwhelmed. Our budget is gone. We have no money. Time doesn't even allow. If I was there, I wouldn't be my best self. You wouldn't enjoy me being there. That's not mean.
No.
It's kind.
Yeah, it's about communicating. It's about being kind. So you don't hate yourself afterwards, or you're not feeling bad about yourself. Because I know that, like my son, for example, like he's the king of boundaries. He's really good with boundaries. But what he's learning more is that there are nicer ways to handle things, and also people that perhaps don't reply, it's like, you know what? Set the expectation. Say, listen, I don't touch my phone in the morning, or when I'm at work, I'm not using my phone. Like, so people aren't offended.
Yeah. Tell the truth with kindness. That's all, literally all you have to do. And that can feel scary, except for literally if they overreact and get offensive, like you said, this is a them issue, not an issue, you issue. And I would say, are you really a kind person? If let's take that party example. If I'm exhausted, I am, overstretched budget wise, and I just need time to reset my life. If I show up at your party and I'm grouchy because I didn't really want to be there, I'm mad that I spent money on this gift that you maybe aren't even going to appreciate. You probably won't. You're not going to give me the reaction I wanted, right? When I picked it out and put it on my
yeah,
a good guest at your party.
Yeah.
Well, you probably like, dude, Brigette, what was her problem?
Yeah.
Like, come on,
Right. It's incredible. You are just you're so good at sharing and being authentic and being honest. And I just love it. I'm addicted to that way of being. And that's how I choose to live my life. And your courageousness though, and fearlessness as far as like showing up on social media, I have got to get some of that, because I'm still worrying about what others think. As much as I am courageous and I do a lot of things that, honestly, I was having self-doubt and all kinds of stuff in my head just before this, like last night and in the morning. And then I said, you know what? Look at all I've done in the last 6 months. Look at what I have created. How about looking at what I am doing and have done, instead of like, I'm not good enough and I don't have what it takes and whatever. And like this kind of stuff. Like, I'm happy to be vulnerable. It's just, there's a line and you've gone higher above. And that's the other thing, the comparison, I cannot compare myself and where I am with someone that's been doing podcasting for 3 years, or, that has this, giant business, coaching business. I have to be on my journey and stay in my lane and focus on myself and be proud of, like I just said, look where I've come in such a short time, but that's what we do. We have our self-doubt and our typical
despair.
Yeah. Pardon?
Is it compare and despair, right? That's what comparison brings, despair. Yeah. Linda, you're flipping the script. You're doing it. You're doing that very thing. You're saying, like, let's pause and seek the truth, because the truth is that you've grown a lot. The truth is you've changed your entire life. The truth is you're choosing to be brave and make an impact. That's the truth. The other thing, the fear, that could be true, but it's not really true. The truth is what you're doing and where you're headed, right? And changing the script. I mentioned that story earlier about the filter, and I stewed on that. It bugged me that someone in my inner circle was judging me, because honestly, that's always where it comes from, is my inner circle, not the greater internet. They don't care, but the inner circle, it made me mad. And then I was like, wait a second, I looked so good that they literally could not believe it wasn't a filter. Like literally wanted proof. How do you even prove that? But literally spent 24 hours texting my husband and bugging him because they didn't believe it. I was that good.
That's such a compliment. It's a compliment. It's a compliment. And you have to be like laughing about it. I mean, I'm not telling you how to feel, but the way I perceive that is so funny. Like, I want to laugh. That is so funny. And
but at first,
are these the wives? Pardon?
Right. Like, at first it wasn't, though. And that's why I said, what is the truth? What is the real truth? Because our brains will always focus on the fearful part of it, the scary part of it, the part that keeps us safe. But when we pause and change the words to seek that truth, oh my gosh, you're right. Now it becomes funny. And I had to pause and say to my husband, like, would you talk about other people's wives like this? And he says, no. I said, okay, thank you. I just needed to make sure, because that's ridiculous.
It's just a funny story. It's going to be a funny story. And the reality is, it's a huge compliment, and you look amazing. And what a compliment that they're just like, whoa. And the haircut just makes you look, it just enhances your beauty. So
Thank you. Thank you.
it's a sophisticated. I recently cut my hair as well, and I feel so empowered. I just can't even believe it. And then, I'll see pictures of myself before and go, oh yeah, I did look nice with the longer hair, but I just like what I see in the mirror with the short hair. I'm happy. I'm fine. you know, and then I see women with much shorter hair and I'm like, whoa, look at them. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, um,
When you choose to be brave, it gives others around you permission to be brave. When I said I was going to cut my hair, I started getting messages behind the scenes of people sending me their past, like their risky moment when they did the mohawk or did the crazy color. Or, like they started sending them to me and they were like cheering me on. They're like, do it, cut it all off. This is what I did. So you become part of a different club and it's so fun. This tribe that's like, yeah, go for it, face your fears, that's where you want to be. It's so life-giving to be part of that group of people.
it sure is. My stylist I went to see the other day, and she was telling me a story about a woman who had this long, big, beautiful hair, and she was a mom and with a baby or a couple babies, and she ended up shaving her head. Her husband shaved her head because it was always in a bun, and she was just so frustrated. And I was like, whoa, that's probably what I would do. Not shave, but really short if I was going to do the gray thing and go that route. But I just don't have I can't do it. I'm not ready to do the gray thing because I know I'll age myself by 10 years and I just don't want to. We get to choose what feels good to us and what feels good. And if having long hair makes you feel good, if having short hair makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel good about you is what matters. Not what your husband thinks, not what anybody's boyfriend. It's how you feel about yourself so that you can shine and be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep.
show up happy. So this has been a really wonderful conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to share about maybe the Queen Circle and how people can find you? And
Yeah, I guess I should share a little bit about what I do. Really, what I do is I'm a strategist at heart. I like to take ideas and help people work through them and find their path. As I specialize in podcasting actually, and helping people lay out their episodes and what does the outreach look like? How do we reach out to someone? How do we get answers back? What does the process of bringing them on look like? What are the episodes going to be like? So I do that. But I've really coached on all sorts of launches. I've done book launches and different businesses. I like taking someone's purpose and helping them live it. That is where I coach. And then the Queen Circle is for women of faith, any faith really, but of faith that claim a divine identity who are stepping into their power and want to be around other women choosing to do the same. And so that's the Queen Circle. And when people sign up for the year-long part, I send them a gift, which is fun. I sent one off last week and I curate it. So it's like really fun. I think about that person and do it specifically for them. So that's the Queen Circle. And then, of course, I teach free classes often. So I teach a free podcasting class once in a while. I teach a mindset class I call the Secret Recipe. And then I'm currently working on 2 books. So like there's a lot happening in the strong and capable world. And if someone wants to be involved, they should just DM me and so I can get to know you. But really, coaching and the Queen Circle are the 2 ways that you can be part of the community.
And tell about so what do you get in the Queen Circle? Like, is it a weekly, a monthly, besides the community? I'm just curious more about it.
Yeah, so we do a monthly call, and sometimes it is me leading the discussion and we're having specific discussion points. This month is one of those months. So we have a quarterly book. So we've been reading The Audacity to Be Queen by Gina DeVee, and we have a Voxer group where we talk about that. So that's not a weekly meeting. It allows people and my queens are busy, so they can do it on their time.
Yeah.
So we have the Voxer app for our quarterly book. We have a monthly meeting where we either have a guest or a specific topic we're discussing. And it was fun when I brought up the guests because this is a circle. It's a collaboration. It's not just me leading it. And so I'm trying always to empower them. What do you want? What do you need from the circle? And so last meeting, like, Well, I was thinking professional, like LinkedIn special guests and social media special. I was thinking like that. And the ladies were like, no, we want inspiring stories. We want the how-tos in life, like how do I declutter? How do like basic things like that that would actually help me in my life. So that was kind of fun to hear what they actually wanted. So monthly meetings on different things that they're choosing. And then we do a yearly retreat next June. We're going to Alaska and we're going to spend a few days in Alaska hiking and getting to know each other and becoming strong and capable together. I'm excited.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's exciting. I might have to join just for the Alaska trip. What month are you going to Alaska? When are you going
We're
to
going in June.
June? So it's still cold there, I assume. Yeah, it's a nice break from the heat.
It's cold, but it's not that cold. I was in Alaska in May about 5 years ago, and it was actually beautiful because it's kind of their spring coming out in that time of year. But you're right, it's a great break because by June, I'm in Arizona. So June in Arizona, we're already 105, 110. So
Same.
Alaska's amazing.
Same. I'm here in Florida and it's super hot in the summer. I don't know how many summers I'm going to handle. I'm going to have to travel in the summer for sure. Um, this has been so great. Oh, I know. My last question was about the your mentor, like the coaches and the inspirational people or the authors that you followed or that really inspired you. Just curious if you could share any names.
Yeah, of course. I believe having a mentor is very important. Most of my mentors have never known they were my mentors. My first social media mentor was Jasmine Star. And I actually went to a conference with her just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And I messaged her afterwards. I said, guess what? You were my first mentor. And she was like, oh, that's so sweet. She responded because she's really good about responding in her social media. So that's a fun tip for you. Uh, then my first podcast mentor was Christy Wright. She's a Christian podcaster, and I loved her energy. And she was with Dave Ramsey for a while. So I just loved, there was something about her that I really liked. I have had Kathy Heller as a mentor, Gina DeVee. I've spent the last couple of years with her, and she really helped me face some things, some stories that I had going on that I did not want to face. And you mentioned Chicago. I cried for 3 days. Ugly cried for 3 days during that. I was so sick to my stomach I could hardly walk because it was like detoxifying so much junk. It was horrible and wonderful. So I
Yeah.
adore Gina DeVee. And then currently I'm working with Danelle Delgado.
Mm.
And I love her. She's a little more masculine and very business approach. So what you will find with coaches is they have a ton of free content. So start there and then you'll know if you need to hire them or not. And then B, every coach has something different to offer. So with each person, Kathy Heller poured in a lot of love, and I had come off a very toxic work environment, and I needed to love myself on some level again, and I had no love. I had no self-worth. I had lost it, which is very anti-me and who I am. So I was very lost, and she helped me find myself again, right? Like I said, Gina helped me face stuff. Christy gave me this sense of like power again. And Danelle gives me this logic that I love. So each coach will bring different pieces of what you need in your journey to you. And so don't be scared to be inspired by all of them.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's great. I appreciate that sharing all those people. And yeah, I've been studying all this stuff the same, similar as you, but we all need different things. So we definitely need to figure out, like you said, what the coaches have to offer. And let's do their free workshops and decide what's for you. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for this great conversation. It's been a lot of
Thank you for
fun.
having me. It's
You're
been
very
fun.
welcome.
Yeah.
And so you've got the website, The Strong and Capable, and Instagram is The Strong and Capable.
So Instagram is actually, my name is Briggette.Heller, Heller. Too many people were finding my personal family stuff, and my kids don't actually want to be all over social media. So my Instagram is my name.
Yeah, good for you.
And then Facebook is The Strong and Capable. It's a private group that you can join.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I will put those links in the show notes. And I will talk to you soon because I love you and I'll always be talking to you.
I hope so.
Yep. Thank you. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, please share with a friend. It means so much to me. I want to reach as many people as I can with this podcast. This is my passion work. I love helping people and inspiring others and just bringing you amazing guests and content that is valuable and powerful and helpful in everybody's life today. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for listening and live empowered.